College parties are supposed to be fun. That's what I thought, at least, until the night I learned that fun and complete chaos sometimes walk hand in hand, and that the universe has a really twisted sense of humor. It all started with my brilliant idea to throw an end-of-year party at my house. The plan was simple, at least on paper: lights, music, snacks, drinks, and enough chaos to make it memorable. I'd been stressing about this party for weeks, choosing the playlist, figuring out how many people my house could realistically fit without collapsing under the weight of freshman enthusiasm, and making sure my parents' stuff stayed safe. Spoiler, none of it did. By the time I had sent the invites, over 40 people had RSVP'd. Naturally, most of them brought plus ones, which quickly multiplied the number of attendees to something resembling a small festival. By 8 p.m., my living room looked like a cross between a rave and a college dorm disaster zone. Couches had been rearranged to make a makeshift dance floor. The snacks were in precarious piles on tables, and somewhere in the middle of the chaos, someone had decided that my coffee table would double as a beer pong arena. The music was blasting Drake, Post Malone, a little Billie Eilish for the moody corner, and the lights were twinkling. Colored bulbs, disco balls, whatever I could find that looked vaguely party-ish. People were dancing on chairs, spilling drinks, and debating loudly about which song deserved to close out the year. Someone had brought glow sticks, and somehow they ended up tangled in the ceiling fan. I didn't even notice until it made a frightening hump noise. I was standing by the snack table, holding a soda, trying to keep track of what was mine and what wasn't, when disaster struck. Not the kind of disaster you'd expect, like someone breaking a lamp, but the kind that hits suddenly and mercilessly. I had to throw up. Right there. And not later, not I'll make it to the bathroom style. No, this was a full-blown emergency. Naturally, both bathrooms were occupied. Of course, I dashed from the kitchen, past the beer pong table, into the hallway, and peered around corners like a man on a secret mission. Nothing. Both bathrooms still locked. Panic started to set in. I looked outside the backyard. Freedom. I ran, ignoring the judgmental stares of anyone I passed, and dove headfirst into the bush at the edge of the yard. Relief, sweet, glorious relief. When I finally looked up, ready to breathe and regain some dignity, I noticed something strange. The neighbor's window was open. At first, I thought maybe he had forgotten to close it, but then I realized he wasn't supposed to be home. He was at the party. Or at least I thought he was. And inside, through the dim light, I could make out a man with a travel bag, frantically stuffing valuables into it. I froze. My brain struggled to process what I was seeing. Wait, is this real life? Yes, it was. The man was literally robbing my neighbor's apartment right next door, mid-party. My first thought was disbelief. My second thought was panic. And my third thought, somewhere between terror and instinct, was to tell someone. I ran upstairs, out of breath, shouting, "Guys! Someone's robbing the house next door." The reactions were predictable. The girls immediately pulled out their phones, calling the police, their voices shrill over the music. But the guys? Well, their reaction can only be described as drunk superhero mode engaged. Some grabbed brooms, one even grabbed a roll of duct tape, and within seconds they were storming across the yard like a small, chaotic SWAT team. I hesitated, unsure whether to stop them. But the adrenaline had taken over. I could only watch as they approached the burglar, who clearly had not expected this level of college justice. When he noticed them, his panic escalated. He tried to climb back out of the window, his only escape route, but it was already too late. A mob of drunk, determined guys tackled him to the ground, swinging brooms and shouting random motivational phrases like, "You picked the wrong house, buddy." He lay there absolutely terrified, his arms flailing slightly, muttering incomprehensible pleas. My friends didn't hesitate. The duct tape guy immediately decided it was time to tie him up. And just when I thought things couldn't get any more absurd, someone fetched a giant trash bag from the garage. Soon enough, the burglar was fully encased like a Christmas present, head sticking out, while rolls of duct tape went around him like some kind of bizarre mummy project. I climbed back to the stairs to get a better view. Stunned. One friend explained calmly, "Don't worry. We're just securing him until the cops arrive. Safety first." I stared. Safety first? This was a human caterpillar dangling from a lamppost. My logical brain was screaming, but my party brain, or maybe just sheer disbelief, laughed uncontrollably. At this point, a few friends decided the burglar wasn't tied enough. Someone suggested going to the dollar store to get rubber bands. They came back with a full rope because apparently that was a more secure option than tiny elastic bands. Before I knew it, the burglar was hanging upside down from the lamppost, swinging slightly in the night breeze like some kind of drunken pinata. Inside, the party continued like nothing had happened. Music blasted, people danced, drank, and occasionally peeked outside to watch the human caterpillar dangling in the backyard. One friend even offered him a beer, which he couldn't drink upside down, obviously. Then the cops finally arrived. Headlights cut through the chaos. Two officers stepped out, trying desperately to look serious while failing miserably. One of them cleared his throat and asked, "Is this the suspect?" "Yes," I said, pointing at the trash bag wrapped, duct-taped, upside-down man. "We kinda secured him." The taller officer glanced at the human caterpillar, then back at me, clearly fighting laughter. I don't think I've ever seen anyone try so hard to be serious and fail simultaneously. The burglar, meanwhile, continued his mumbles. "Please. I swear I'll never. Come back." My friends ignored him, laughing, joking, and dancing around him. One friend even fed him some chips, as if it were some kind of hospitality. By the end of the night, the burglar was handed over to the cops. Our neighbors, who initially came out to complain about the noise, ended up laughing and thanking us, saying only at a college party could this happen. And with that, the night ended. But the story of the human caterpillar burglar would live forever in our collective memory and in every retelling. By the time I caught my breath from the absurdity of seeing a full-grown burglar wrapped in duct tape, stuffed in a trash bag, and dangling upside down from a lamppost, I thought, okay, this is probably it. The cops will be here any second, and everything will settle down. Ha! Big mistake. College parties are like a perfect storm: booze, loud music, immature bravado, and a dash of chaos. And when you throw in a terrified burglar hanging from a lamppost like a pinata, nothing goes normally. I walked back inside, expecting that the party would be at least a little subdued. Maybe some people would calm down, drink a bit slower, check on the guy, whatever. But nope, the living room was still in full-on chaos mode. People were dancing on the couches again, spilling drinks, and debating loudly whether Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion had the better end-of-year anthem. Someone had moved the beer pong table to the corner and replaced the cups with snacks, which seemed more important than anything else at that moment. Meanwhile, outside, the burglar, let's call him Mr. Caterpillar, was still dangling upside down, flailing his arms and muttering something that sounded like, "I'll never steal again. I swear," in the kind of tone that only pure terror can produce. One of my friends, obviously inspired by the absurdity, crouched down with his phone and began filming him like he was a wildlife documentary. "Here we see the suburban burglar in his natural habitat," he narrated, completely immobilized, terrified beyond belief, and surrounded by his new overlords, a pack of drunk college kids. I couldn't help but laugh. My brain couldn't even process what was happening. We had a man who broke into someone's house, and now he had become the centerpiece of our end-of-year party. It was surreal. Someone had the genius idea to rename him the Human Caterpillar. And suddenly, that was his official party nickname. Signs were jokingly made, "Beware, Human Caterpillar Zone." Someone even grabbed a glow stick and wrapped it around the lamppost, giving him a kind of festive, horrifying aura. Inside, the party continued. People were drinking, laughing, and dancing like nothing unusual was happening outside. In fact, several partygoers were completely unaware of the giant human wrapped in tape, upside down, hanging in the yard. I had to remind people occasionally, "Guys, don't forget we have a full-grown burglar in a trash bag outside." At some point, one of my friends, possibly fueled by pure bravado or too much vodka, decided it would be hilarious to offer him a drink. "Here, man," he said, holding a beer under Mr. Caterpillar's upside-down face. "You've earned it." The burglar stared at the cup like it was a mirage. I swear he wanted to scream, but being upside down and wrapped in duct tape severely limited his vocal abilities. All he could do was mumble incomprehensible things and flail his arms weakly. Then the real fun began. A couple of our more mischievous friends decided it wasn't enough to leave him hanging in the lamppost. They started throwing snacks near him, chips, candy bars, and even an empty pizza box. One friend laughed and said, "Maybe if we feed him, he won't try stealing again." By this point, I had lost count of how many people were outside gawking, filming, or just laughing hysterically. Neighbors started coming out too. Some were angry at the noise, some were curious, and when they saw him dangling there, their expressions shifted from annoyance to pure amusement. One of the neighbors, an older guy who usually complained about everything, just shook his head and laughed. "Only at a college party. Only at a college party," he muttered. Meanwhile, inside, a small group decided it would be fun to turn the backyard into a party stage, right around our human caterpillar. Speakers were moved outside, lights adjusted, and suddenly the burglar became a bizarre party decoration. People danced around him, took selfies, and made jokes about hanging out with the newest party mascot. At some point, I realized I needed to check on the logistics of this madness. I walked over to one of my friends who was trying to secure his feet with more duct tape. "Do you even know how ridiculous this looks?" I asked. He shrugged. "Ridiculous? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. The cops aren't here yet, so we're just securing him." "Securing him?" I repeated, incredulous. "You mean upside down, wrapped in a trash bag, and duct taped like a mummy?" "Yes," he said, completely serious. I had to laugh. There was nothing else to do. By now, my logical brain had completely surrendered to the chaos. This was happening. It was real. And it was glorious in its absurdity. Then, finally, the cops arrived. Headlights cut through the party lights. Two officers stepped out, trying to look serious while clearly struggling not to laugh. One of them cleared his throat and asked, "Is this the suspect?" "Yes," I said, pointing to the upside-down, trash-bagged man. "We kind of secured him." The taller officer glanced at him, then back at me. I swear I could see the corners of his mouth twitching as he tried to maintain composure. It was clear that he had been expecting a normal burglary report, not a fully adult man dangling upside down in a trash bag. Mr. Caterpillar, meanwhile, was still mumbling incoherently, trying to convince us that he would never steal again, while our party continued unabated around him. Someone jokingly asked if we should give him a medal for surviving the human caterpillar experience, and yes, that idea caught on. The cops eventually untangled him, lowered him to the ground. And while he was clearly shaken, there were no injuries. Our neighbors, instead of being angry, were impressed. "You kids actually caught him? With duct tape and a trash bag?" One neighbor laughed. "I thought we'd need SWAT for this." After the cops left, the party wound down. People trickled out, music turned off, and the neighbors went back to their homes. But the legend of the human caterpillar was cemented. It was the kind of story that would be retold for years, a perfect blend of fear, chaos, and humor. Even as I collapsed onto the couch, exhausted, I couldn't help but smile. That night had been insane, terrifying, hilarious, and unforgettable. From a normal end-of-year party to capturing a burglar in the most ridiculous way possible, it had everything a college story needed. And the best part? Everyone was still alive, no one got seriously hurt, and the human caterpillar had somehow survived it all. Looking back, I realized that this night perfectly captured the essence of college: chaos. Impulsive decisions, laughter, fear, and the occasional disaster that somehow turns into a legendary story. And for me, that night would never be forgotten. After the cops left and the party wound down slightly, I thought we could finally relax. I was wrong. As soon as everyone realized that the human caterpillar had survived the lamppost ordeal unscathed, a new idea struck the group: documenting the chaos. Phones came out like wildfire. My friends were suddenly amateur journalists, narrating the burglar's every move in a mix of mock seriousness and drunken humor. "Ladies and gentlemen," one of them announced, holding his phone like a professional cameraman, "we bring you live footage of the rare suburban burglar in his natural habitat hanging upside down, duct-taped and fully terrified." The burglar looked at the camera and groaned. "Please, let me go," he mumbled. I swear the sound was somewhere between a sob and a hiccup. My friends laughed so hard that they nearly fell over the trash cans. Meanwhile, the backyard had turned into a festival of absurdity. People were still drinking, dancing, and occasionally tossing small snacks toward the upside-down burglar like some kind of weird human pinata game. Some neighbors, curious or perhaps entertained, started peeking over the fence. When they saw him, most of them laughed uncontrollably. "Only in college," one neighbor muttered. "Only in college. Duct tape, trash bags." And they actually caught him themselves. Social media came into play almost immediately. Clips from the party, featuring the human caterpillar, began circulating among our friends' group chats. Memes were born on the spot. Someone photoshopped him into a Christmas ornament. Another person made a before and after collage comparing him to a caterpillar slowly transforming into a butterfly. By the end of the night, we had created an internet legend in real time, all while drunk, chaotic, and absolutely convinced we were just having a normal party. Inside, the music was still blasting. People occasionally peeked outside, shouting commentary like sports commentators during a particularly dramatic game. "And he swings again. Duct tape is holding strong. The caterpillar will survive another round." Meanwhile, the burglar's panic escalated slightly. "I'll never steal again?" he shouted, voice muffled from the duct tape and trash bag. My friends laughed, clapped, and even offered him encouragement. "You're doing great, buddy." One shouted, "Just hang in there." By this point, I was torn between sheer disbelief and admiration for the sheer audacity of the night. We had transformed what should have been a terrifying situation into an interactive, absurd, and hilarious performance with the burglar as our unwilling star. Even the cops' presence felt surreal. They had left after confirming his identity and recording the initial statements, but I could tell from their expressions when they left that this was not what they were expecting. They were probably going to recount this story to colleagues for years, and then came the best part, the social media attention. Clips and photos began circulating in private groups. Friends from other dorms were sending messages. "Oh my God, did you see what you did?" One even asked, "Are you trying to get him on TikTok as the first human caterpillar?" Meanwhile, the burglar had started realizing how ridiculous his situation had become. He muttered, You're all insane. I can't believe this." "Yes," we replied in unison. "You finally get it?" By the end of the night, the backyard had completely transformed. Speakers were moved closer to the lamppost, music blasting. People danced around, joked about feeding him, and even debated what we should do with him if the cops didn't show up immediately. Somehow, he remained alive, terrified, and completely wrapped in tape. While we continued our party, at one point, one of my friends, probably in a stroke of drunken genius, suggested, "We should make him the mascot for next year's party." Everyone laughed. And honestly, at that moment, it wasn't entirely ridiculous. As the night went on, the story of the human caterpillar burglar spread further. Partygoers shared videos, photos, and stories. The absurdity became a badge of honor for all of us. I realized that this night would never be forgotten. Not just for the ridiculousness of the situation, but for the sheer camaraderie, chaos, and laughter that came with it. By now, the human caterpillar situation had evolved into a full-blown suburban circus. The night had stretched past midnight, the music still thumping, and our backyard had become a surreal mix of flashing lights, dancing drunk college kids, and the most unwilling party guest in history, the burglar himself. At first, I thought the worst was over. I mean, we had duct taped him, stuffed him in a trash bag, hung him upside down from a lamppost, and the cops had confirmed his identity. Surely, the story had peaked. Wrong. Apparently. The universe, or perhaps the collective drunken energy of 40 college students, decided that the night wasn't chaotic enough yet. The burglar, sensing his life had become a nightmare horror comedy, started mumbling increasingly desperate phrases. "Please, I'll do anything. I'll pay. I'll—" His voice trailed off, muffled and indistinct. We couldn't fully understand him, but the meaning was clear. He wanted out badly. This, of course, only encouraged my friends. One of them, probably the most overzealous in our group, decided that the human caterpillar needed more security measures. Because one roll of duct tape and a trash bag clearly wasn't enough. He disappeared for a moment and returned with, "Wait for it. A roll of Christmas lights. Decorative," he explained. "Adds flair and extra restraint." The burglar, dangling there, now had lights wrapped around him in addition to tape. I swear I could see the panic in his eyes, if he even had the energy to blink anymore. Meanwhile, the backyard was a full-on spectacle. Someone had turned the speakers toward the lamppost so that the music pounded directly at him, like a dramatic soundtrack for his life's greatest humiliation. As if that wasn't enough, the social media coverage had intensified. People were filming everything, from his muffled pleas to the way his legs flailed, to my friends dancing around him in ridiculous costumes. Yes, someone had brought a pirate hat earlier, which was promptly placed on his head. Clips were already being shared in group chats, and memes were being born in real time. One friend even jokingly started narrating him like a wildlife documentary again. "Observe the human caterpillar, a rare creature in the wild. Notice its desperation and inability to comprehend the social hierarchy of college parties." Meanwhile, the burglar, finally realizing the absurdity of the situation, tried to reason with us. "Look, I didn't, please. I just needed. I won't," and naturally that only made us laugh harder. One friend, wielding a broom like a ceremonial scepter, said, "She! The caterpillar is resting. Don't disturb him." By now, the neighbors were fully aware of the situation. A couple had come outside earlier to complain about the noise. They were now fully invested spectators, laughing hysterically at the scene. One of them even asked if they could take a photo. I swear, only in college would someone break into a house, get captured, and become a local celebrity in one night. At this point, I had to check the logistics of the situation. The burglar was still dangling, wrapped in tape, bag, and now Christmas lights, head swaying slightly from the breeze. I noticed that one of my friends had also tied a small string of glow sticks around his legs. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. One friend suggested adding a sign, "Caution, human caterpillar, approach at your own risk." Another decided that we should name him. Suggestions flew: Barry the burglar, Sir Duct Tape, and Lamppost Larry. We settled on Caterpillar Carl because it had a certain ring to it. Naturally, this escalation caused the burglar to attempt escape. Using all his remaining strength, he flailed, twisted, and wriggled. Of course, this only made him swing further, which elicited roars of laughter from everyone present. One friend quipped, "Look at him go! He's practically doing a trapeze act." The cops had left earlier, and honestly, by this point, I was starting to wonder if we'd need them again, not because he was dangerous, but because the sheer ridiculousness of the situation seemed to require an official witness to this madness. Meanwhile, inside the house, the party continued as if nothing had changed. People were dancing, taking shots, and occasionally running outside to check on the caterpillar. Some were filming short clips for social media. Others were trying to feed him snacks, tossing chips and candy bars in his general direction while he dangled helplessly. At one point, one of the braver friends climbed up near him and said, "You know, if you survive this, you're going to have one hell of a story to tell." Caterpillar Carl, because that was now his full name, muttered something that might have been a response. Though it was impossible to decipher, another friend, trying to be helpful, suggested we add a safety net. He fetched a large sheet from inside the house, placing it under him in case he fell. The burglar, still upside down, gave what I could only interpret as a look of pure existential despair. Social media attention had grown by now. Everyone with a phone was documenting everything. I swear the videos were already going viral in our college group chats. Memes and captions like, "When you try to rob a house but college kids catch you mid-party?" Human Caterpillar 2025. The legend begins. Duct tape is mightier than the burglar. Even my professors might have seen some clips, which made me nervous, but honestly, that seemed a minor concern compared to the absurdity of the night. And then came the final escalation. Someone decided that Caterpillar Carl needed a drinking straw for hydration. Yes, a straw. We pretended it was a survival straw, offering him sips of water while he dangled upside down. He was too terrified to refuse. By now, the night had reached peak chaos. Friends were dancing, filming, cheering, tossing snacks, and making commentary. Neighbors were laughing uncontrollably. The burglar was fully aware of the public humiliation he was enduring. And I was just trying to keep track of everyone, occasionally reminding people not to break anything else while keeping my sanity intact. At one point, I even stepped back and realized this was a once-in-a-lifetime scenario. The combination of a drunken college party, an attempted burglary, and a fully captive human caterpillar had created something legendary. And somehow, everyone was still laughing. The burglar was still alive, and the cops thankfully were not directly involved at this stage. The night continued. And by now, it felt like we were running a college-themed reality show, with Caterpillar Carl as the star. People were taking turns narrating his story, joking about his future, and even planning the next party theme, Caterpillar Carl's Revenge, which, for obvious reasons, never actually happened. As I stood back, watching the chaos unfold, I realized something important. This night was going to be retold for years. A perfect combination of fear, humor, camaraderie, and complete absurdity. And for Caterpillar Carl, he was going to be infamous forever. By now, our backyard had officially become the epicenter of chaos, absurdity, and pure college energy. Caterpillar Carl, our reluctant, duct-taped, upside-down burglar, was the star of the show. Music blared from speakers, flashing lights illuminated him like a bizarre disco pinata, and every drunk friend had somehow become part of this surreal performance. Inside, the party was still going strong. People were dancing, shouting over the music, taking shots, and sharing videos of the outside madness. Every so often, someone would run out to check on Caterpillar Carl, either to feed him a chip, toss a candy bar, or just laugh at his desperate flailing. At this point, I started realizing something critical. The police weren't going to arrive for a while, and we had no official instructions for what to do next. Sure, we had duct tape, a trash bag, Christmas lights, and glow sticks, but what was the legal or moral protocol here? I tried to ask, "Guys, should we maybe wait for the cops instead of turning him into a party mascot?" "Ha, silly me." One friend, wielding a broom like a ceremonial staff, immediately responded, "No way. This is history in the making. Caterpillar Carl is our centerpiece. He stays." Everyone else nodded enthusiastically. That was the moment logic left the building. From then on, chaos reached maximum capacity. Pranks, commentary, and party escalation. The first prank came from someone who decided Caterpillar Carl needed decorative accessories. A sombrero appeared on his head. Fake sunglasses were taped over his eyes. Someone found a feather boa and wrapped it around his midsection. At this point, he looked less like a burglar and more like a ridiculous carnival attraction. Social media coverage exploded. Videos were being uploaded to Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. Captions ranged from, "Caught in the act, Human Caterpillar 2025, when you try to rob a house but end up becoming a party mascot, duct tape greater than burglar. Meanwhile, Caterpillar Carl tried to reason with us. I swear, I'll never steal again. Please, let me go." My friends ignored him or shouted absurd encouragements. "Hang in there, buddy. You're doing great. Almost bedtime. Smile for the camera. Look at those legs." Olympic-level flailing. At one point, someone decided he needed hydration, and a straw was offered. I swear the man's life had become a surreal combination of hostage situation and ridiculous college spectacle. He was upside down, duct tape, decorated, and now sipping water through a straw like a king in a very strange, very humiliating parade. Neighbors joined the fun by now. The neighbors had fully realized what was happening. Initially annoyed at the noise, they had transitioned into spectator mode. One older neighbor brought a lawn chair and a thermos, clearly intending to enjoy the show from the best vantage point. Another neighbor leaned over the fence and shouted, "Only in college. Only in college. You kids have officially outdone yourselves." Someone even asked if he could film for his own social media account. And my friend, always thinking ahead, said, "Of course. Just make sure you caption it properly." The legend of Caterpillar Carl. Friends' deliberations on next steps. Despite the laughter and chaos, there were occasional moments of brief sobriety or pseudo-seriousness. A few friends started debating what to do until the cops arrived. Should we move him inside? No way, outside is safer and funnier. Maybe we should untie him a little. Are you insane? This is historic. Meanwhile, Caterpillar Carl's muffled protests became more urgent. "I'll pay. I'll do anything, please." And naturally, this only fueled the humor. My friends had decided that the more he protested, the more legendary he became. One friend even suggested giving him a mock award, Most Dramatic Burglar of the Year. Physical comedy and escalating absurdity. As the night wore on, the antics grew more extreme. Someone decided to swing him slightly, testing the strength of the lamppost and duct tape. Another friend pretended to conduct a sports commentary on his flailing, and he twirls. What a performance! A true display of athletic despair. At some point, someone grabbed a broom and gently prodded him, mimicking a magician levitating a volunteer, while Caterpillar Carl's muffled groans became part of the soundtrack to the night. Meanwhile, inside the house, the party continued uninterrupted. Guests occasionally peeked outside to see how he was doing, laughing hysterically and filming clips for social media. Some of the more creative friends tried to interact with him like he was a party game, tossing small, soft items near him, making him dodge or catch imaginary objects. Somehow, Caterpillar Carl survived this interactive performance art. Peak chaos moment at the peak of chaos. Everything seemed to converge. Caterpillar Carl dangling, decorated with lights, sombrero, feather boa friends filming, narrating, and tossing snacks, neighbors cheering and taking videos, music blasting louder than ever, social media buzzing with viral clips. At one point, someone suggested we rename the party after him. Caterpillar Carl's Revenge, end-of-year extravaganza, became a trending joke. People outside and inside debated whether it was appropriate to continue filming or if we should create a highlight reel. By now, it was clear the night had completely eclipsed any normal party experience. Caterpillar Carl, once an intruder, had become the star of the most absurd college party in history. Reflections in the chaos. Somewhere in the middle of all this madness, I realized a few important truths. Drunken college logic can create legendary moments. An intruder can inadvertently become the mascot for your party. Duct tape, trash bags, Christmas lights, and imagination can achieve things no rational thinking could. Social media immortalizes the absurd. Caterpillar Carl, still hanging upside down, probably wished he had never attempted to rob the neighbor. But in the grand scheme, he had become a living legend, a story that would be retold for years. By the time the first hints of dawn began creeping through the suburban streets, our backyard looked like a chaotic battlefield turned performance stage. Caterpillar Carl, our human burglar turned party mascot, was still the centerpiece of the night, though now slightly worse for wear. Duct tape had loosened in places, the trash bag was torn in one corner, and the Christmas lights were blinking erratically. Somehow he was still upside down, still terrified, and somehow still very much alive. Inside the house, the remnants of the party were scattered across every surface. Spilled drinks, abandoned plates of snacks, half-empty soda cans, and confetti that someone had apparently found to throw around earlier. I sat on the couch, exhausted, trying to process what had happened over the last several hours. My friends, despite being equally hungover and sleep-deprived, were laughing uncontrollably about every absurd moment of the night. the police finally take over eventually, the cops returned. This time, they were serious, or at least trying to appear serious. But the expressions on their faces betrayed the fact that nothing in their training had prepared them for a human caterpillar tied to a lamppost in a college party setting. Is this the suspect? One officer asked, squinting through the blinking Christmas lights. Yes, I said, pointing. He's contained. We've been watching him? The other officer repeated, raising an eyebrow. Like, physically watching him? I hesitated. Sort of. Yes. He's, part of the party ambiance? They gave me a look I can only describe as utter disbelief mingled with suppressed laughter. One officer sighed and muttered, well, this is certainly a first. Meanwhile, Caterpillar Carl, fully aware that the authorities were back, started pleading more earnestly. Please, I'll do anything. I won't steal again. Please. One of my friends shouted, Don't worry, Carl. You're famous now? The cops glanced at each other again, likely questioning their career choices. The officers carefully untied him, being cautious not to aggravate the situation further. It took a good 20 minutes to remove all the duct tape, disentangle him from the trash bag, and carefully lower him to the ground without injury. By the time they were done, he looked like a beaten, bedraggled pinata who had survived a nightmarish obstacle course. Friends, reflections, and humor once the cops had taken him into their custody. A few of my friends gathered in the living room to reflect on the night. The discussion was less about logic and more about laughing at the absurdity of it all. Did we really just... One friend began, trailing off mid-sentence. Yes, another replied. We turned a burglar into a party mascot, duct-taped him, decorated him, filmed him, and somehow survived. And went viral on social media in the process, I added. We all laughed, acknowledging that this night would never be forgotten. Some friends speculated about the long-term consequences. Do you think he'll ever try to rob a house again? Doubt it. Caterpillar Carl probably has PTSD now. He'll be famous in our town forever. Another friend joked about turning this event into a college tradition. Next year, we should hire someone to play Caterpillar Carl party centerpiece. Everyone laughed at the idea, knowing full well it was both insane and slightly terrifying. Neighbors' reactions, our neighbors, who had initially come out to complain about the noise, were now fully invested in the story. Some even offered comments as the cops wrapped things up. Only in college. Duct tape, trash bags, and Christmas lights, one neighbor laughed. You kids have officially outdone yourselves. Another neighbor, peering over the fence, said, I've lived here 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this. That man is lucky to be alive and lucky to be so ridiculous. Even the couple who had been complaining about the noise earlier admitted they were entertained rather than annoyed. By the end of the night, the neighbors were laughing, taking photos, and telling friends about the human caterpillar legend. Social media buzz peaks by morning. The social media clips had spread beyond just our college. Private messages, group chats, and TikTok shares were exploding. People were captioning videos with things like, Caught in the act, Caterpillar Carl. The most humiliated burglar in history when duct tape meets karma. College parties are wild, don't rob houses near them. Memes were being created instantly. Caterpillar Carl photoshopped as a superhero, as a Christmas ornament, and even in video game style achievement unlocked graphics. I realized in awe that our absurd antics had created an instant viral legend. Even professors and older students were laughing at the clips. Some joked that this was now the benchmark for college party absurdity, cleaning up, and last reflections. Eventually, people started leaving. Guests were exhausted, hungover, or simply done laughing at the backyard chaos. We began cleaning up, trying to restore the house to something resembling order. The trash bag, duct tape, and glow sticks were all thrown away or recycled. I sat back on the couch, looking at the aftermath, and couldn't help but marvel at the night. A burglar became a party mascot. Neighbors turned into amused spectators. Friends performed pranks. Narrations and decorations. Social media immortalized the event. It was insane. It was hilarious, and somehow it all worked. Caterpillar Carl was gone, the cops had officially taken over, and we were left with the legend of a night that defied logic, sanity, and probability. Key takeaways or not as I reflected. A few truths became clear. College parties can become legendary in the most unexpected ways. Chaos plus creativity plus alcohol equals unforgettable moments. A human caterpillar is now part of our lore. Some stories are so absurd they need to be told for years, even as the sun rose, casting a golden glow over the suburban chaos. I knew one thing: this night would never be forgotten. Both by us and by Caterpillar Carl, the story of the human caterpillar would grow, evolve, and eventually reach the point where anyone hearing it would laugh uncontrollably. Imagine the absurdity and probably question our sanity. But for us, it was a night of camaraderie, chaos, and hilarious, unforgettable memories. The morning after the party, our house was quiet, or at least quieter than it had been for the past 12 hours. The lights were dim, the music off, and the smell of spilled beer and snacks lingered in every corner. For anyone else, this would have been a time to recover, sleep, and maybe reflect on the disaster that had taken place. For us, it was prime storytelling time. The first retelling started as soon as we had everyone in one room, nursing hangovers and trying to remember the exact sequence of events. People started adding details they were pretty sure had happened, exaggerating moments for dramatic effect. She literally swung like a trapeze artist. One friend said, referring to Caterpillar Carl's attempts to escape the duct tape, "No, no," another countered. "He almost touched the fence. If it weren't for the glow sticks, he would have escaped entirely." We laughed so hard that our stomachs hurt. Already, the story was bigger, better, and more ridiculous than the reality. Each person's version added a new layer of absurdity. One friend claimed that Caterpillar Carl had been juggling chips mid-air. Another insisted he was singing along to the music, muffled by the duct tape. Someone even said he tried to negotiate with them using imaginary math to calculate his release. By the time we were done laughing, the story was unrecognizable from the actual events, yet somehow more entertaining. The viral spread begins within hours. The videos and photos taken during the party had spread far beyond our dorm. Group chats, Snapchat stories, and Instagram reels were filled with clips of Caterpillar Carl dangling upside down, decorated with Christmas lights, a sombrero, and a feather boa. Captions included, "Caught mid-heist, Caterpillar Carl. The most decorated burglar of the century, duct tape greater than burglar. College edition, this man tried to rob a house," and became a legend. By the afternoon, people who hadn't even attended the party were laughing hysterically. Friends from other dorms messaged us, "I can't believe this actually happened. You guys officially broke the internet with a human caterpillar. When's the sequel party?" Even professors who had stumbled upon the videos were texting us privately, "This is unbelievable." Only at college. Friends adding layers of humor as the story spread, we naturally continued exaggerating details, embellishing moments for maximum entertainment. We started joking about the training regimen for Caterpillar Carl. Hours of flailing upside down for endurance skill tests like dodging chips mid-air, decorative challenges like balancing. Christmas lights. One friend even joked that he should have received a performance score from a talent judge. And we started rating him in categories. Flailing accuracy -10/10, decorative appeal -9/10, survival instincts -8/10. The absurdity of it all kept everyone laughing, turning what could have been a stressful story into a hilarious legend. Neighbors joined the retelling. Word quickly spread to the neighbors who had witnessed the event. By the evening, several had come over just to relive the chaos with us. "I never thought I'd see a man duct-taped and hanging from a lamppost in my backyard," one neighbor said. "You kids really outdid yourselves. Caterpillar Carl is going down in history." We all laughed together, recounting the story with dramatic flair, pointing to where things had happened, and even reenacting parts of the chaos. One neighbor, who had originally complained about the noise, admitted, "I laughed so hard I almost fell over." You'll be telling this story for decades. Social media memes and legendary status. By now, Caterpillar Carl had reached viral status. Every post, meme, and clip became more exaggerated. Photoshopped images of him as a superhero. TikTok remixes featuring his muffled voice and flailing GIFs captioned, "When you try to rob a house but end up as a human caterpillar." Even friends who weren't at the party were sharing videos, laughing uncontrollably and adding their own humorous commentary. The story had escaped the confines of our college and was now circulating through local communities, group chats, and online forums. We realized something astonishing. A failed burglary had become a legendary college story. One that would be told for years in every dorm, party, and casual conversation, reenactments, and inside jokes, of course. The story wasn't just shared digitally, it became part of our daily lives. Every party afterward included jokes about hanging upside down or surviving caterpillar training. Friends would casually reference duct tape endurance during study sessions or group projects. Someone even made a fake Caterpillar Carl Award to commemorate the night. Each retelling grew funnier. The burglar's muffled pleas, our ridiculous pranks, the Christmas lights, and the sombrero all became permanent fixtures in the legend. Lessons learned or ignored amidst the laughter and exaggeration. A few truths emerged. Chaos plus creativity plus alcohol equals legendary storytelling. Even criminals can become part of college lore if handled creatively. Neighbors may laugh more than complain if the situation is absurd enough. Social media immortalizes the ridiculous moments. We didn't exactly learn restraint or caution, but we certainly learned how to turn a disaster into a story people would never forget. Preparing for the final chapter as night fell again, we gathered in the living room, reflecting on the absurdity. "Do you think Caterpillar Carl even remembers this?" one friend asked. "I doubt it," another replied. "But everyone else will remember forever." We laughed, realizing that our human caterpillar story had already transcended the events of that night. It was no longer just a party anecdote, it had become a college legend, social media meme, an inside joke all rolled into one. And that set the stage for the final chapter, the ultimate wrap-up. Reflections, humor, and cementing Caterpillar Carl's status as a legendary figure in our lives. By the morning after the chaos, the house was a war zone of confetti, spilled drinks, and broken party decorations. Yet, even in the wreckage, there was a strange sense of pride. Somehow, despite all odds, no one was seriously hurt, the burglar was alive, and the story had become the most legendary event in our college's history. Caterpillar Carl, now officially a living legend, was long gone, taken by the police, though his image lingered everywhere. Photos, videos, and memes that had already spread across social media like wildfire. Morning reflection as my friends gathered in the living room, coffee in hand and hair disheveled from a long night. The conversation inevitably turned to recounting the events with dramatic flair. "I can't believe we actually did that," one friend said. "I can't believe he survived it," another replied. "Seriously, that guy has the endurance of a circus performer." "And somehow," I added, "he's famous now." We laughed, each of us embellishing details, remembering moments that had made us howl with laughter. The way he flailed like a trapeze artist, the sombrero and feather boa decorations, the glow sticks and Christmas lights that somehow made him look festive while terrified. Our neighbors cheering and filming from their lawns. Every retelling became more exaggerated, turning the night into a comedy epic. Neighbors and community reactions. By late morning, the neighbors were actively sharing their accounts. Some came by, laughing uncontrollably. One elderly couple even brought donuts and jokingly asked if they could take a victory photo with Caterpillar Carl's lamppost, now empty. "Sadly, you kids have officially set a new bar for parties," one neighbor said. "And for criminals," another added. Even people from neighboring streets had heard the story by now. The legend of Caterpillar Carl had spread like wildfire, cementing its place as the most absurd event our town had seen in decades. Social media immortality. The social media coverage had reached peak viral status. Clips were now trending in multiple groups, TikTok remixes with music overlays of muffled groans, GIFs showing his flailing limbs captioned. When you try to rob a house and the college kids fight back, memes photoshopping him as a superhero, Christmas ornament, or video game character friends and strangers alike were sharing videos, laughing and creating derivative content inspired by the absurdity. Caterpillar Carl's fame had grown beyond our college. He was now a viral legend, a symbol of chaotic, hilarious justice, the final wrap-up, humor, and reflection by the afternoon. The house had quieted down. Friends were still recovering, but laughter lingered in every corner as we recounted the night one last time. Some reflections emerged. Chaos breeds legends. The night's madness had created a story no sober retelling could ever compete with. Creativity plus drunk logic equals absurd solutions. Duct tape, trash bags, Christmas lights, and glow sticks had somehow solved a real problem in a hilariously over-the-top way. Social media immortalizes the ridiculous. Videos, photos, and memes ensured the story would live on long after the hangovers faded. Even a burglar can become part of college lore. Caterpillar Carl had gone from intruder to hero of comedy and viral fame. We joked about future parties. Next year, we need a new mascot, someone suggested. Maybe someone in a giant hamster ball this time? Everyone laughed. Knowing the absurdity could only grow, Caterpillar Carl's legacy, though, Caterpillar Carl, had returned to the real world. Likely traumatized and humiliated, his impact would never fade. Within our friend group and dorm, he was now the subject of memes and inside jokes, a recurring reference in future parties. The embodiment of absurd college chaos even years later. Mentioning the night of the human caterpillar elicited laughter, disbelief, and awe. It was the perfect combination of fear, comedy, creativity, and social bonding, an event destined to become legendary in our community. Humor, life lessons, and closure. As I reflected on the story, I realized life sometimes throws the absurd and terrifying together, and the best way to survive is with humor. Creativity and friends willing to act ridiculous. Chaos doesn't have to be destructive. In our case, it turned a crime into comedy, a fear into a story, and a burglar into a legend. Memories are amplified by exaggeration. Every time we retold the story, it became funnier, more dramatic, and more legendary. We ended the night or morning, depending on perspective, laughing, exhausted, and proud of the ridiculous, unforgettable event we had orchestrated. Caterpillar Carl might have hated us, but the world loved the story, and so the legend of the human caterpillar duct taped, upside down, adorned with Christmas lights, sombrero, and feather boa was complete. It would be retold for years, laughed at by generations of college students, neighbors, and internet strangers alike. Final thoughts: some nights are just parties. Some nights are unforgettable. Some nights turn a burglar into a living meme. This was all of the above. Caterpillar Carl taught us. Absurdity can create memories for a lifetime. Chaos handled creatively is comedy gold. Social media immortalizes the ridiculous. Legends can come from the most unexpected places, and as we finally cleaned up, laughed at every video again, and began the slow process of recovering from the night, we knew one thing: nothing would ever top the human caterpillar. It was the perfect storm of fear, chaos, humor, and friendship, and it would live forever in our hearts and on the internet.